If you haven't heard about Anchor, it's like the easiest way to make a podcast ever. Okay, let me explain. First of all, it's free. There's creation tools that allow you to record and edit your podcast right from your phone or computer. Anchor will even distribute your podcast for you so it can be heard on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and wherever you find podcasts. And you can make money, and there's no minimum listenership. It's everything you need to make a podcast in like one place. Okay, download the free Anchor app or go to anchor.fm to get started right now. Anchor.fm and get started right now and start your own podcast just like me. It's so easy. You're listening to Out of the Box with Rosie Tran. I'm here with Stacey Storey, former Miss Alaska and independent film producer. How are you doing?
I'm doing really well. How are you?
I'm doing great. I'm so excited to have you.
Thank you. I'm so excited to be here.
So I wanted to talk about your amazing film, Best Friends Forever, which you independently produced on a very small budget and got it to Slamdance.
Yeah, we did. It was very, very exciting. It's one of those amazing, as a lot of indie films are, projects of love and blood, sweat, and tears and all the other amazing things that go along with something that's not mainstream. So you just have to get in there and get your roll your sleeves up and get your elbow grease on.
So how did you get involved in a project like this?
It actually came by my wayside. The two writers, Bria Grant and Vera Meow, they are friends of mine, and they actually kicked around this idea for a very, very long time. And it started off as a horror movie, and I always knew that it was in the works just as their friend. And they were looking to get it made and went to several producers, and I know it just sort of kept falling apart. And then I just went to them and I said, hey, how about me producing your movie? And at the time, I hadn't even produced a feature. Like, I'd done a couple of short films.
Which is totally different, right?
Totally different. Totally different. Yeah. And I just went up to them and I said, hey, what do you think? And yeah, and then the rest just sort of fell into place really rather effortlessly from that point on.
So how did you guys raise the $70,000? Because money in Hollywood for a project that doesn't have a huge big name star is kind of like a unicorn. You have to
It's true. It's true.
If you don't have Charlize Theron attached, people are just like, whatever.
Totally.
Because everyone, I think I know at least 5 or 10 friends working on independent projects. It's almost like everyone here is working on something independent. So it's like, how did you guys go about finding the funding?
Well, on the back end, we did a Kickstarter campaign that was really successful. And on the front end, we actually had less money than the amount that you're talking about. And that was just basically from pitching a ton of people that we knew or that we knew that wanted to get into making movies or that just really loved art. And also we were taking it from the standpoint of shooting on film still.
So you guys shot on film?
We did. We shot on
That's
Super
why it has
16.
that really great, unique look. I saw the trailer. I have not seen the film yet.
Oh, okay. Yeah. We wanted it to be really gritty and real and, had this really nice visceral sort of feel to it. And we thought that the medium sort of served the film in its best capacity.
So that's really interesting because I hear a lot of independent filmmakers avoiding film because of the cost, because they have, this $10,000 budget or this really small budget. And so digital is the way to go. So how did you guys reconcile that?
A lot of favors. It was a lot of me begging and pleading people to make it happen. And I think that actually was a huge impetus behind it, was we wanted to prove to people that you could still make an independent film on film.
On film.
Yeah, exactly. Right. And because everyone, of course, can get a red fairly easily at this point, or, the Alexa is like the new jam now. But at the time, we just really wanted to show people that you can still use the actual film because it's so beautiful. And unfortunately, it's slowly getting phased out. And there's just something so wonderful about, like I said, because, digital medium is like there's still pixels involved and there's still, you know what I mean? It's nothing but that. And like to actually hold film in your hand and to see it blown up or blown down, it's going to still retain that same look and feel to it. And there's just something really amazing about, that's what this entire city was based upon, was that actual use of that film. And so the fact that it's getting phased out really breaks my heart. Just as a movie maker and a film lover. But then on the other hand, like, I understand how things change and times change. But like I said, but my main thing is we wanted it to be this wonderful love letter to actual film.
That's great. I love the look of it. I think it looks absolutely beautiful. And kudos to you guys for doing that on such a small budget.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you. We're very, very, very proud of that. Very, very proud.
So was there, I know with film, because I actually have heard several producers tell me that, you know, they went to digital and they were thinking that digital was going to save them all this money. And then they actually had post-production costs with digital. And also because certain directors feel that now they have this unlimited, you know, they can just keep shooting and do reshoots and reshoots and reshoots. The acting isn't as good because with film, you know, maybe the lighting is going to go and you only have one take or whatever. Was there any feeling of that where you guys really felt like with certain takes you just had to get it?
Yeah, and that's what's funny is, like, obviously there's pros and cons to everything, but that's what was so great about the actual film itself. Sorry, the only reason why I moved to the side was because my P's will hit the microphone. That's why. I have to make sure I don't over enunciate. Yeah, because on film, as you were just saying, you don't have as many takes, for example, and you know that when you go in as a director, one, you have to be super specific about your wants and needs, and obviously with digital, you can go take after take after take, and then as performer, not only do you know sometimes people take longer to get there, but that's what the rehearsal process is so much more important when you are doing a film, like on actual film, is because you just rehearse it to death, like so you know it inwards and outwards. So when you're ready to go, like you just get in and you get out. And then furthermore, and I think it really makes you hone your skills a lot easier and better because you have to really just be on it and not just be a lazy filmmaker. And then also I think that what I loved about it is that you don't so it's like, again, a pros and a con, because you don't need as much lighting to light film as you would like for digital, for example,
because you can change the f-stops and like
and then furthermore, you just don't, the equipment's like you can get away with a lot more. I mean, but having said that, like obviously the flow is different in regards to pulling focus and things of that nature, but at the same time you don't necessarily need as much lighting when you're doing on film. Do you know what I mean? Like there's interesting pros and cons. And then furthermore, with the post process, a lot of people end up going in and trying to implement the look of film on digital stuff. Yeah. And a lot of times those hours can add up as well. So, so like I said, there's definitely pros and cons. I mean, the most expensive thing about the film is the processing of it, like the actual taking it to the place and then, you know, and then they have to digitize it. But other than that, I mean, it's a pretty seamless process that I highly recommend that everybody actually take a moment to learn how to do, or at least be able to do it one time in your life before it gets phased out. Because what was interesting, that I'd go to a lot of my friends who just came out of film school and they literally had no idea. They were like, do they still do it on strips? Like it's still on strips and you splice it together? And I'm like, no, you actually like digitize it into a file. And it's so crazy because people didn't even know. Like people had no idea, but that just goes to show how like new filmmakers just don't know, you know?
They thought you were welding strips of film together.
Yeah, like
the editing room? Yeah. Like in 1943?
For real. I swear to God, I was really like, what? But then I think in the beginning, I was like, I don't think so. And I was like Googling. I was like, how do they, because I didn't know in the beginning either, you know? Because I had always shot. I mean,
I have shot one project on film. It was a short film that I did in college, and it was only, I think, about a 5-minute film. But I know a little bit about the process, and I'm a photographer as well. Gotcha. So I know about the process, but I did not know about the lighting differences with digital.
Yeah, it was really interesting. And again, that was, you know, because of the DP. And then of course, when, you know, we had amazing gaffers that worked on the film, and they were really just like, yeah, luckily these are the things that we can get away with, especially considering how real and sort of gritty we wanted it to look. Mm-hmm. We didn't need much, especially during the day too. We really just didn't. The landscapes kind of spoke for themselves as well.
Now, since this is your first feature length film producing it, was it like Producers 101? Like you were just learning as you go?
Yes and no. I mean, luckily I had amazing mentors to walk me through it. You know, a couple of them have been like nominated for Academy Awards, or they've done really amazing independent films as well.
Are these people you've met through acting, or
just, you know what, just from just being out and about? Yeah, just out in the world.
You're like, I'm outgoing.
I'm in, you know. Yeah, and so they were really great. And then the rest of it was sort of trial by fire. And I actually kind of recommend that for almost any, as you know, probably any facet in this business, because
you learn the most.
Yeah.
Hands on.
For sure. And this is the thing too, is I hope I'll never quit learning. Do you know what I mean? Really?
Yeah,
because,
I agree.
Yeah. Cause like, I mean, Lord knows that I probably won't ever know it all. But the fact of the matter is too, it's like, I've seen, Spielberg sit on panels and say he's still learning. And what a beautiful thing to always be constantly learning about yourself and about the business and about the people you're working with. Like, but also, like, as you know, like when you hear people who want to direct, like you just have to go out and direct something. So your best way to learn it is
that's
just
what
to, like,
that's what I
go out
say.
and do it.
I agree completely. That's what I say with stand up, because I always have people coming up to me. I've been doing stand up for 10 years, and I always have people coming up to me saying, "Oh, well, how did you get started?" Or, what did you do? And this and that. And pretty much the only way to learn stand up comedy is to stand up on a stage and be horrible.
Right. And I'm sure embrace sucking.
And just suck and suck and suck until one day. That's why I never make fun of new stand-ups. Like, I always see new stand-ups and they're struggling and this and that. And I remember when I started, there was, some people who were hateful or saying, "Oh, you suck, you should quit." You know what? I've seen people suck for 7 years and then something clicks in their brain. And it just clicks. And then all of a sudden they're like funny, like no shit funny, because stand up is a craft. A lot of people don't understand that. They think that you're naturally funny and that's how you get up there, is you're just a naturally funny person. And it's not. It's a very specific craft. Sure. And a lot of the greatest stand-ups I know are actually really awkward or shy or not even outgoing at all.
Yeah.
So.
And vice versa. Like some of the funniest motherfuckers I know are like not good stand-up
Oh,
people.
yeah.
No,
I know people who are hilarious and they stand up on a stage and they suddenly get super shy and awkward. So it's just one of those things you have to work on, just like acting. I know people who have been horrible actors and have worked on their craft and taken classes and gotten better. Some people think you either have the acting chops or you don't. Some people are amazing actors and they never work on their craft and they can't memorize a line worth anything. So it's all, I think hard work does have a lot to do with it. And I think trial by fire is a great way to learn anything.
Yeah.
Although having I think a lot of people pre-prepare, like they do a lot of research, in which I do, but every situation is different. I'm sure you guys came up with all sorts of production issues or things that happened that couldn't be read about in a book.
Yeah. And I did take a ton of meetings. Still to this day, but I mean, pre, during, and after, just in regards to all the different processes of it. And then furthermore, obviously everyone has their own different takes on it, because there's also as we know, producer, like that word is so overused in this business. But at the end of the day, I firmly believe that when you have a movie behind you, you can officially say you're a producer because you have something to show for your hard work.
Now, what type of production were you doing? Were you like everything, like doing the budgets, like doing the set, managing sets, finding out the locations, like doing everything? Or were you just doing, because there's different types of producers. There's people who just do the budgeting, the accounting, there's line producing, there's like all sorts of different types of producing. So were you just doing everything? I
was basically doing everything. Yeah. I was like,
you were like, I was all producers.
I was. And I was like the UPM and the LP and the main producer. And yeah.
You're like, and I was gopher, and I was runner, and I was camera girl.
Pretty much. Yeah. Pretty much.
Yeah. I know. It's about productions.
Oh yeah. And plus what's crazy about, we ended up at one point having like a 40-person crew, I think, when we did some reshoots here. And luckily I could, have a very clear delineation in regards to my duties at that point, because when you're everything, when you're everything, you're going to suck at something. And that's what's really hard about being in that position, because also oftentimes, as you know, when you're on set too, you have a good cop and a bad cop. Usually one will be like, yes, we can do that. And the other one will be like, well, no, actually, we're going to count, and so it's nice to be able to have that person where you're like, dude, the other guy said, no, sorry. Do you know what I mean?
So you're just talking to yourself.
Yeah. So literally it would be me going, okay. So I think
no, Stacey, we can't do this. Yes, Stacey, we can't do it. Totally. We're going to find a way to do it.
Yeah. It was really hard. And I look like a schizophrenic on set.
And how long did you guys take to shoot?
We did about a month in Texas.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah. And then we did a reshoot about a week here in LA.
And what was included in the reshoots? Was it just scenes that you guys missed or bad audio or?
It was a little bit of both. I think that when you go, obviously as you're making the film and then you see like some of the holes that
in the plot or something.
Yeah. Or that are, when we did test screenings that people weren't quite grasping or that weren't hitting as hard. And then also the the bad thing about shooting on film is being out in the middle of Texas, we had to keep shipping it to LA in order for it to get processed and see the dailies. So oftentimes, like, there were some lens problems that we didn't know about until days later that we had to end up reshooting in Los Angeles at a later point.
I'm surprised they don't have a processing center down there, because I know the film industry has moved quite a bit to the South, North Carolina, New Orleans, Austin, just because of production being a little bit cheaper.
Yeah.
So I'm really surprised they didn't have a processing facility.
Yeah. I mean, we looked at a couple of them. I think the reason why we ended up doing the one here in Los Angeles was just because they were also going to, do a lot of the post stuff as well. It was just sort of like more of a package deal that we had signed up for versus, we probably, there was definitely places in Texas. I mean, but one, just because a lot of them, well, Super 16 also, having said that, is a very still specific medium. 35 is still obviously rather ubiquitous versus the Super 16. So there was only like one or two places in the United States that even still processed that particular kind.
Okay. I didn't know that.
Yeah, sadly.
What's going to happen to film?
I know.
It's sad.
I know.
It's sad.
Because I'm sure you heard Fuji, as of December, quit making film, period. So what they have is what they have.
I didn't hear that, but I know that there's one big facility. I'm like blanking for some reason. They're ramping down on processing, like a lot, like it's almost been half.
Yeah.
And a lot of people are just going to digital as a way to save money. But I've actually heard a lot of interesting negatives about digital regarding costs, regarding, some of these productions that are, first of all, I think a lot of productions are going crazy with the CGI, and it's like taking away from story value. Like, I think you should always have above everything else, a film is a story, and you should have a great story. And I think some of these films are replacing great plot lines with crazy digital effects.
No, it's true. And then also, what I think people are forgetting is that like Super 16 really fit our film, and digital really fits some films. And then I feel like you have to kind of match the medium with the
feeling of the film.
Yeah. Rather than just do a blanketed across the board like digital, or do you know what I'm saying? I think that's kind of getting lost in the shuffle with the money part of it a little bit.
Well, that's something that really bothers me about the entertainment industry in general, is it's the only industry where you're having a lot of decisions that are creative being made by business or financial. And that shouldn't, when you're dealing with art, you can't put a label on certain artistic endeavors,
It's true.
And it's like, you can't, business people are business people, and that's different. And I feel like they should just lend things to creativity. And I know maybe not specifically with your film, but I know of a lot of films and also projects that I have had friends working on, or I've worked on, that decisions have been made creatively from the business side. And it's like, no, you're not a creative person.
Yeah.
I'm telling you, it works like this.
Yeah, I know. It's true. And and I think that's the hard part about being a producer, is that you have to think what's best for the film, like, first and foremost. And then furthermore, sometimes obviously the money part comes into play in regards to how it butts heads with the creative part, because everyone's fighting for their creative vision, but at the end of the day, you have to really sort of be the person that can be the fusion of the two.
It sounds like you were both.
Yeah, I feel like I am. I feel like I luckily have both those parts of my brain that I'm able to see the big picture too, Yeah.
So you guys got into Slam Dance. That's a big deal.
It was amazing.
What was the process with that?
Yeah, you mean in terms of going and or what do you mean?
I mean, anything. Like what? Like how did you guys apply? When you found out, were you totally stoked? Like what?
Yeah, no, it was great. I mean,
did you apply to other festivals? Like what?
Yeah, we did. I mean, our top three, as I feel like most people, it's Sundance, of course, Toronto, and then South by Southwest, and South by, of course, just because we filmed in Texas, so that's why it was a big deal for us. And at the time, we'd gotten our rejection letter from Sundance, but then 2 days later got our acceptance into Slam Dance. But then along with that,
And by the way, a lot of people are saying that Slam Dance is the new Sundance, because Sundance has gotten a little bit corporate with some of the quote unquote indie films having these huge stars in them.
Oh yeah. And I'll be honest, being there and knowing that they're running, I mean, I'll be honest, you almost don't even know the difference between the two when you're there, because people are going to see both, and everyone has both badges really. And I think
they're simultaneous. Slam Dance is across the street, right?
Correct.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. So they're literally just right across the street from each other. And, you know, and everyone knows everyone, and it's really just, and even when you go to like the gifting suites and all that kind of stuff, like everyone doesn't give a shit. Like they're just kind of like, yeah, you're part of either festival, like amazing. Like, do you know what I mean? They're kind of looked at as being
similar, very similar.
They really are. They really are. I mean, as far as like from a selling market, I understand, you know, Sundance still carries that name to your average person, you know, existing out in the world. But as far as when you're there and you're a movie goer and you're a movie watcher, and Slam Dance notably is known as being like the people who are still getting in there, because like you said, Sundance has gotten so saturated with like really big films. He's really excited about
There's
Sundance
my dog Mitzi. She is in every episode of the podcast at least once, barking or growling.
Mitzi loves Best Friends Forever.
She loves Best Friends Forever. She was so excited about Slam Dance that she had to let everyone know. Yes, it is. It has been actually termed recently, from what I've heard, as being more of a corporatized indie film fest, because even though it was originally the Indie Film Festival, you know, everyone has that, oh, Sundance. A lot of the films, it's like, you can't say you're an indie film when the Weinstein brothers are backing you.
Yeah.
You can't say you're an indie film when, you know, Meg Ryan or Angelina Jolie's in it. It's like, come on.
I know, it's true. It's true. Well, yeah, because I remember being in Park City and there's like Nicole Kidman walking by, and I was literally like, okay. I mean, you know,
I think it used to be the Indie Film Festival, and I think now what it's become is a place for a lot of actors who either their career isn't going where they want in the big budget, or they're sick of doing big budget Hollywood films and they want to do something artistic, or because, you know, most actors are artists, and so they want to do something like that. And I just don't consider it myself a true independent film festival.
For sure.
Yeah. So I think that's actually better. And you guys were there, and the industry was there as well. So yeah.
Well, and plus what was neat was I knew this about because someone forewarned me. They do all these weird like pop-ups. So they actually, businesses like Nobu, for example, will actually,
like restaurant pop-ups.
Yeah, they will literally go and they'll buy a cafe out, redo it as Nobu Park City for the week or whatever. And so everyone can go and rub elbows at Nobu in Park City. And that's my little rubbing elbows dance. And I just thought it was so crazy.
You can't see Stacey, but she's dancing back and forth.
And I thought it was so crazy because I'm literally like, so this business owner who owns this cafe must be getting paid a lot of money, because otherwise, like,
why would he let someone take over his restaurant?
Totally, during Sundance, Slam Dance.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? And then they're going in and having these like huge Hollywood parties. It just was so weird. I was literally like, this. I feel like I'm back in LA. Like, you're literally.
There was no point to be in Utah.
So crazy, for sure. The only difference being is like you're wearing like UGG boots. Like, that's literally the only difference. So you're literally taking LA and then you're going like this and then you're dropping it in Park City.
And then everyone has jackets on, and that's it.
Totally, that's it. That's really it. Everyone just has a few more layers.
That's hilarious.
It's kind of crazy. That was very like, wow. Yeah.
So how did you guys do there? Did you make a lot of connections? Was it worth it? If I was an independent filmmaker saying, you know, should I send my film there? Like, what were the pros of getting into Slam Dance?
Yeah, I mean, I think, well, when you're premiering there, there's just the wonderful excitement of being there and being around people who are excited to see your movie. And, you know, we sold out both showings.
That's awesome.
Yeah. And it was just really exciting to watch it in a room full of people for the first time. And
you weren't sick of like seeing dailies and like watching it. I mean, were you part of the post-production where you just like saw constantly over and over again until you were sick of it?
For sure. But you know what's crazy is when you're seeing it with people though, it's like they find stuff funny that you've seen 1,000 times. So
you're like sick of it?
Well, no, you didn't know that was funny. And you're like, oh shit, they thought that was, you're like, okay. Like, it gives you a renewed view of it.
New eyes.
Yeah. You get totally a renewed idea of it. So that was really exciting. And it's still every time like we'll bring it somewhere, you know, one of us will go and watch it with the crowd, like even and because in different regions everyone finds things different funny and takes away something different, which I found really different. Like, we've gone to the South and we'll go to the Northeast and everyone has a different take on it. So it's just so interesting. The energy is completely different,
and it's by region.
Yeah. It's been so weird. But the whole thing was amazing. I mean, of course, you're there with a bunch of other people whose sole purpose is to get out there and to make new friends, and I think that that's amazing because that environment is very conducive of that, and everyone's just excited. The excitement level so high that like the energy is like every day, like you're up at 6 a.m. going to bed at like 2 a.m.
and you're not even tired.
And you're not even tired. Yeah. And then when you go home, you crash and you want to kind of die and everyone's sick, like literally sick and not feeling well because you just kind of ran yourself in raggedly. But everyone's just, the momentum's amazing. Like I highly suggest, if you ever get an opportunity, like to try to get your movie into Slam Dance, because they treat you so well and it's just party after party after party, but in like the most like genuine, wonderful circumstances, because you're literally celebrating filmmaking.
That's awesome.
Yeah. And honestly, every day I was like, oh my God, I wish I could bottle this up and feel like this every day. Cause it makes you not necessarily make another one just so you can experience this, but at the same time,
it makes you feel motivated.
It does. Yeah. And it makes you feel like what you're making matters to people, and to see other people doing it as well and pursuing their dreams and actually have something to show for their hard work, like feels really fantastic.
I think that sounds amazing. And I know what you're talking about, because as an independent artist and also filmmaking, I think a lot of people still don't understand filmmaking. Like they see a film and they think, you know, people are just running around making films and that's it. They don't, especially for indie film. I think this is very important. They don't understand that it was literally created from nothing. Someone had an idea and then had to wrangle people together and then find the money. I think that because a lot of people just see the Hollywood system where, you know, there's this like giant machine of money and then you just get the actors and this and that. Like they don't understand that independent filmmaking, you're just creating something out of an idea.
Totally. Right.
And it's, you're doing everything.
Yeah.
You're creating everything. I've only done it on a smaller level and I've worked on some indie films, but I haven't done it from beginning to end like you. And I can only imagine how much hard work it is. And sometimes there's this feeling like, am I doing, like, what am I doing?
A lot. Yeah.
Like every day, right?
Yeah.
You're like, what are we doing?
I know.
Is this real?
Yeah.
And so to have, I mean, just to get this script written, I mean, half the people in LA, you know, have this idea for the next great script and they haven't even written it. So even just to get the script written, like you guys actually completed something.
Yeah.
And then to have that acknowledgement and to go somewhere where people are hyped about it and praising it. Because I think in general, a lot of people tend to be very, not negative, but when you're doing something different or on your own, there's a lot of obstacles. Let's just say that.
Totally.
Yeah.
Totally.
So I think that's awesome.
No, thank you. Thank you. And I think that when you're, yeah, no, you're so right when you're saying like when you have this idea, then it comes to fruition, because also I see so many of my friends who do have things completed and still aren't able to find the money, or it ends up falling apart.
There's so many obstacles. Do you know how many films
so
and things
many.
I've been cast for that got canceled or the funding ran out, or and it's like this constant, it's not just like a rejection. Like people are like, oh, there's a lot of rejection in Hollywood. You hear these ideas or these thoughts and you don't realize how much it is. It's like, you know, I was cast for something. I was excited. What I say is you don't count on it till you have the check in your hand. It's cashed in the bank and it's cleared. Because I've been cast for so many productions or so many things where I got so excited about it. And then I was cast in a television show where I was literally supposed to shoot the next day, and then I got a phone call from the casting director who was mortified and had to tell me that I was no longer part of the production because the producer ended up casting his girlfriend. And, you know, like so many things where you're like, oh, this is my big break, or I have this, or I've got it. And then the budget fell through and the funding fell through and you're like, ah,
totally.
And it just completely falls apart. So the fact that you guys actually created something from nothing, got it to completion, got it into a film festival, I mean, that's more than 80% of Hollywood.
Yeah, no, yeah, it's true. It's true.
And not to say anything negative about other people, but it's just there's so many obstacles.
There's so many. Yeah. You know, and I was watching this behind the scenes thing with Clooney. And I wasn't with Clooney.
I know. I was going to say, you just said that like you're like, me and Clooney were just chilling at
George,
Sundance.
Yes. He was on the television and I was in my living room watching him.
In my PJs.
Yes, eating some ice cream. And he was talking about how when a movie does well, because, you know, we've known him as, and, you know, he's played every role in Hollywood in terms of like producer, director, an actor, of course, you know, so he's seen the filmmaking process from all these different angles. And he was saying when something goes well and it lands and it becomes a hit, he's like, honestly, it's beyond me because there's 1,000 reasons why it can go wrong. I mean, it can go wrong in the casting process. It can go wrong in the editing process. It can go wrong from the directing, of course. You know what I mean? Even if the lighting isn't sitting well with people, or you know what I mean? And
it's true. There's so many things. There's so many
things
times
involved.
I've seen a film that I just loved, and I'm like, oh, but I wish they didn't have, so and so. She doesn't make sense as this person.
Totally.
Or you just there's something off, or the
and
light.
sometimes you can't exactly
put your finger on it.
Yeah,
you're just like, why is this off? This is not good.
For sure. So when something lands, but then also on the other side of that, though, from a complete filmmaking standpoint, like you were saying, there are literally 1,000 reasons for something to fail. So the fact that, like you said, like we have it on iTunes, it's fully functioning as a film that
just to get the film made. Like I'm not even talking about it becoming a success. I'm talking about someone having the courage to write a full-length script that doesn't suck.
Yeah. Right. Yeah.
Right. 2, finding someone to give you money or multiple people to give you money. I mean, I can just count 10,000 reasons right now just from my personal experience as an actress and also working on other productions.
Yeah.
Even I think I did a short YouTube film and it took me like YouTube stuff, like the people that I know that do these like 2 or 3 videos a week that are like high quality. I'm like, what the heck?
I know. It's true. Yeah. And that takes some serious like determination to do it.
That's
honestly.
like extreme determination. Yeah. I know people that are like YouTube stars that like have a new video every week. That's like, I'm not talking about the new videos every day that are like, like a camera blog or something simple. I'm talking about people who are putting out on a weekly
production
basis.
Value. Yeah. There's like that. Like there's like a good production design.
They must be like
some sound effects and shit. You're like, how did you're like, wow.
They're like on crack or doing something or on some magic, because it's like, just to do some of the small productions I've done have been just ripping hair out.
And plus, as I'm sure you've heard, a lot of films get lost in post. Like they'll get made, but then won't have the money to finish it, and they've been sitting there forever
on the shelf, or a bad editor, which was happened to a documentary that I worked with. The editor was bad for the price that they could afford.
Yeah.
And then they ended up having to go to another editor, and then they ran out of money.
Well, and editors for documentaries are really the sculptors of that story.
Yes.
Do you know what I mean? Yeah. You have to find a really, really good one. Yeah. Too much like reality TV,
They're all very, very specific, and I think people don't really understand that. But yeah, especially for indie filmmaking, where the money is so crucial. So that's just crazy. How long did you guys do the Kickstarter?
We did it for 37 days. 37, yeah, because they recommend. Kickstarter is an amazing one. Have you done any film money making or?
I haven't, but I'm familiar with the website.
Okay, yeah, it's
donated to certain projects.
But they literally, when you sign in to get your project on there, they walk you through the entire process so wonderfully. Like it's, I'm just so impressed with their system. But they literally are like, if you want to raise this amount of money, this is how many days you should do. They recommended 30 or under because they think that momentum will carry
the urgency.
Yeah, for sure. Exactly. Speaking of, but then what's amazing about human nature is, right when you launch the Kickstarter, it has this huge like goes
surge,
way up,
and then people kind of like
it plateaus off. Yeah, for like but by week 2, you're kind of shitting your pants because you're literally like, we are not going to make our money because it plateaus off. You're just still running after it, and then there's something about when that clock actually is ticking down,
people start.
Yeah, and then that's when you literally make the majority. Like I want to say you make like 70% of your money in the last like two days or something like that. It's kind of insane because and you literally feel like at one point you should quit because you're just like, oh my gosh, we're not going to make it. But then, like I said, for whatever reason, on that last 2 days, everybody like really rallies behind you, and especially since that's the community. The community is set up for people to want to see your project do well and flourish, and it's just so wonderful because it's really because I know what I'm a huge Kickstarter backer anyway, and I always feel like I'm buying art. Like that's what I feel like. I feel like rather than me going to shopbop.com or neimanmarcus.com, like now I'm like, oh, I actually feel like I'm shopping for like I think I helped make one of the ballet companies in Chicago get off the ground.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. You felt like you're just like, I bought a ballet today. You know what I mean? Like that's what I kind of felt like I was doing. So it makes you feel, like, so for every jeté they do, you feel like you contributed to that in some way.
That's awesome. And I think that is a much better way to contribute money than just buying a shirt for yourself or something like that. Because you feel like you're giving back, and Yeah, it's kind of an ego trip. Like, yeah, kind of.
Yeah.
The ballet.
For sure, yeah.
Stacey's ballet.
I know, right? It's true. It's true. And you feel like because this is the thing, like that $20, honest to God, it means something. Like when you see somebody literally like who's going out of their pocket rather than buying those 4 cups of coffee or whatever, they're actually decided to give to your thing. And it just means so much to you as a filmmaker because you're just like, oh my God, I appreciate you so much. Like, and don't get me wrong, the $200, of course, but like either way, the monetary value like that you set doesn't matter. It's the fact that somebody went out of their way to go look at your thing, to press the yes button, to say like, it's so validating, and it makes you feel as if like honestly that you can accomplish anything, because when you see people actually going and believing in what you're doing, you're just like, fuck yes, because that's the reason why we do this at the end of the day. You know what I'm saying? Like, because otherwise I would just sit at home and make shit and watch it like with my cat. And, do you know what I mean? Like, really, it's about, but you're doing it so that
you want other people to see it.
Yeah, you know what I mean? Like, and so for people that actually want to like have your DVD and they're super pumped, you're just like, oh my God, like it's so humbling, because you just think that like my mom and my grandma are going to be the only 2 people who are going to be super pumped. So the fact that like there's some person in Iceland who like is like, hell yes, you're like, oh my gosh. And I'm doing
something.
Yes, totally. And I wish I knew something in Icelandic to say thank you, but you're just like, thank you. So it's really lovely.
Do they speak Icelandic? I think
I don't know.
Like Danish or something, right?
I'm totally making up shit. I don't even know.
I'm not sure what they speak in Iceland either.
How dare you, Rosie?
I can Google it. That's awesome. Now, why did you go with Kickstarter instead of Indiegogo? Because Kickstarter, you don't get the money unless you reach your goal, right? Correct. So was it because of the pressure, or you wanted to like, hey, all or nothing?
Yeah, there was 2 things. Of course, we had that conversation, but I have found that on Indiegogo, one, they are not as, and I don't want to speak ill of that website, but nonetheless, this is just our decision-making process and what was going on with us. And they allow any project to go on there. One, Kickstarter's you actually have to get approved. So I felt like they were really prestigious about the content that they put on their website. And from a aesthetic standpoint, Kickstarter's just a beautiful website. And I felt like that speaks volumes about how they view their projects, and furthermore, how they reach out to the community that's established within Kickstarter. Whereas Indiegogo, like, it's kind of a hot mess. Do you know what I mean? You go on there a little bit and you're like, you know what I mean? You're like, I don't know what the fuck to look at. Like,
you're like, this person's raising money for socks? What's
I know.
going on here?
It's true though, right? Which they could absolutely do that. Like, do you know what I mean?
You're like, cat socks? What is this?
I know. Although I would actually support that. I won't lie.
Are you a crazy cat lady?
I'm totally a crazy cat lady. Yes, I love cat memes. Like I would literally just like die laughing by myself at home, like tearing up from cat memes.
I'm a crazy animal person. I just love all furry animals. It's bad. It's really bad.
No, they're the best. There's a part of your heart that animals like that.
I'm like one of those like crazy YouTube people that watches those like cat rolling around, dog laying in a cat bed, whatever.
Oh, did you see the cat bed one on Huffington Post? It's kind of amazing.
It's really, really, really bad. You're cracking me up.
But yeah, I'm sorry, but yeah, and then also the thing about Indiegogo versus Kickstarter is and again, it's the all or nothing mentality, and the fact that
I think that also creates another sense of urgency. It's like another level of like, you guys better donate because we're not going to get a penny unless you.
No, for sure. And there's something about rallying people behind you, because also like Indiegogo, like a lot of people I had known have done it, and they've raised like $1,000 out of their like $100,000 goal. And it's like,
what was your original goal posted on there?
75.
Okay. Wow.
And yeah. And we got 81.
That's awesome.
Yeah, it was really great. And yeah, like I said, I just feel like that just really spoke a lot in regards to, because everyone's like, oh, but at least you get a little bit. But I'm like, you know what? And I don't mean to sound like a jerk, but like that says so much about somebody. Then I'm like, you're saying to me that you're only worth that $2,000. Like I'd much rather say like, fuck man, like we're worth this 75, so let's just knock it out and rock this. You know what I mean?
That I do, and that's a great mentality, and very interesting for people to think about when deciding what they want.
For sure. And I understand the fear behind it, but at the end of the day, like I said, it's like
it's like you have to it's like there's a fallback plan, but when you guys had the 75 or nothing, it's like you made yourself bigger to accommodate that.
For sure.
Like you had that goal and you're like, I'm gonna get this goal and
true.
I need to get this goal, otherwise we don't get anything. It's all or nothing. And so maybe it pushed you guys harder.
It does. It really because this is the thing, if it kind of strolled in, I'll be honest, and again, the people I've known that have done the Go, they're just like, hey, we're just grateful for whatever little bit. And don't get me wrong, like there is still that gratefulness along with the Kickstarter where it's like, oh, every little bit counts. But it's more just like, hey guys, like, we gotta get this.
We gotta get this money.
Yes, you're like, we gotta get it. Like literally every day you're like, come on.
You had your heart was on fire.
For sure. And this is what's cool about it is that for a really intense 37 days, like you go in, you're like, okay,
this sounds like slam dance, and then you crash after and you're sick.
For sure. It's true. It's true.
I see a trend and a pattern here, Stacey.
It's so funny how that thus is indie filmmaking though, right? In general, like, cause you go, like like when we were shooting for a month, I probably slept, I think at one point I slept 6 hours in like 3 days or something. And so that I was averaging 2 hours a night, which is fine. But at the same time, like you're just, there's so many highs and there's so many lows. Do you know what I mean? Like in filmmaking, like there's so many highs. Like you're just like, okay, like we got this money. Oh my God. And then they dropped out. Oh my God, we got this. And then the DP drops out. And then like, you know what I mean? Like there's so many highs and lows. And so, but then people are just like, yo, you should kind of learn to ride the medium. But yeah, I'm just like, it's the roller coaster. Like the medium, like I don't want to go on I don't
want mediocre. You're like, I want real life.
I don't want to go in the carousel that goes around and around. Like I'd much rather do that shit where it's high and low. I mean, I don't know. I know maybe that's a masochistic way to look at it.
No, it's not. It's not, because I think that the extreme lows make you appreciate the extreme highs, and the extreme highs give you something to look forward to in the extreme lows.
And having said that too,
and it's life.
It is life. It is
life. Is not the carousel. Life is not the mediocre carousel.
No,
that is not life.
It's true. It's true. And then furthermore, in those levels of the low points, it's honestly, as a filmmaker and as a human, is when we learn the most about ourselves.
It's always everything. That's why I don't understand people who avoid pain, because anytime I've walked through the fire, I've come out stronger. Anytime I've walked through the fire, anytime I've been uncomfortable, I've learned something about myself. Anytime I've been miserable, depressed. One of the worst times in my life, when I was like depressed, like beyond, was hopeless, that's when I really found myself. And I think that a lot of people are scared of pain. Sure. And I think this is what I've said about myself. It's kind of silly. I will go through extreme emotional or mental pain because really there's no harm. It's just your ego, right?
Right.
So once you get through the other side, you're always stronger. But I will not go through any physical pain because I only have one body. So
right. Yeah.
I'm not skydiving. I'm not jumping off of anything. But if you want to challenge me mentally or emotionally, I will walk through the fire.
Amazing.
But I'm just, I'm like, no.
The metaphorical fire.
I'm like, the metaphorical fire. I will not walk through a fire, right?
That's amazing.
I don't know if there's an afterlife. I'm spiritual. I don't have a very strong belief system in one specific religion. I don't believe in an afterlife. This is my body. I'm taking good care of it. I drink my veggie shakes in the morning.
Oh my God, you're so cute.
I go to the gym. I'm like, don't touch my vessel. Okay.
Yeah, for sure.
But I will go through mental anguish if I know that on the other end there's a positive result.
And I think there always will be.
There always is.
I mean? There always is.
When I feel it's just convincing myself in the moment, because sometimes I've been through a period of uncertainty and I just always have to remind myself, okay, remember when this happened like 5 years ago and the result was positive?
Sure.
The result is always positive.
Yeah.
Because you can't get anything that you want without suffering a little.
For sure. And then also, I think that as artists, and again, as humans, I mean, obviously I feel like art is really a huge metaphor for just how we exist as humans. But like, if everything was always like, and you never had any hard times, how are you supposed to know how to get better? Like you always have to have a moment where shit's not working or it's falling apart or whatever, to really go inward and to go, what is not working here, and how can I be better, and how can I do, and what am I doing why is this eliciting this right now
reaction?
For sure. So and you always have to have those moments where you're like, oh shit, do you know what I mean? Like either I fucked up, or for whatever reason, this is not, you know what I'm saying? And
no,
I
totally agree. And I think we can all see that with people. I mean, we all have a friend that has quote unquote had it easy, and yet they can't do the simplest thing. In fact, all of the horrible things that happened to me as a child, I embraced because I would not be the person who I am now. You know, I know people who had it super easy and they can't deal with like basic problems.
For sure.
The more tough you had it as a kid and growing up, the more you're capable of dealing with life, I think.
For sure.
So it's all like a positive always. Did you guys have the trailer up on Slamdance? I mean, not Slamdance, on the Kickstarter. Did you guys shoot the trailer first or like a teaser?
Yeah, we did a teaser. And then also, this is the thing about Kickstarter that's so important is that is your video in terms of...
Yeah, that's what I was wondering, if you guys maybe shot something before or like...
Yeah, well, we gave them a little taster at the very end, but then when you do your video telling them just why they should really give you money, and it's literally like you just want to be a minute in and out and just get people super pumped about it, and then
not
just
give
like
them
10
minutes
taste.
of crying. Please,
I know, seriously. Although that might be equally effective. Who knows? People can't handle a girl crying. Let's be honest.
You have a bunny rabbit with a gun to its head. Donate. Or Mr. Furry gets it. What kind of Kickstarter is this?
Then you see me behind bars and I have to have a Kickstarter to bail me out.
They actually had something like that online. They had some guy who, I think it was a prank, but he had some kitty cat or some animal, and he said that if people didn't donate money, he was going to kill the kitty cat. And I think he actually ended up raising like a couple $100,000. Yeah,
people will do anything for it.
Well, there was a bunch of when the internet first started, there was a bunch of stories like that. There was like there was a website where the person was selling a pixel of advertising each, like people trying to become instant millionaires.
Oh,
and a guy was like selling advertising. It was like the smallest ad or something, so he would sell one pixel, and you could, if you put your mouse over the pixel, the ad would pop up, like it would hover.
Yeah,
and he made like $1 million selling like 1 million pixels or something.
Oh, crazy.
And then there's all these like weird internet stories and stuff like that.
Yeah.
You know, now that we're all connected through the World Wide Web, all the interesting and unique people.
It's true. Well, plus Kickstarter is so good at are you on their email list? They'll send you like highlights for the week. God, and like I said, the projects that are out there though, there are
how often do you donate?
Amazing ones.
Like every week?
Every week I probably average like, I guess I average probably once every 2 weeks. Yeah.
I'll have to keep you in mind if I have any projects.
I know, right? I know. It's true. I love it. I do love it. The thing I was going to say really quickly when you were talking about seeing the end goal of being like, when you're like, oh, okay, if I'm in a dark place, I can see, oh, I've gone through this a few years ago, keep going.
Yeah.
I oftentimes have this wonderful, wonderful metaphor in my head or analogy about, you know how there's those invisible fences when dogs have those collars? You know what I mean? And they can only go to the perimeter of the lawn. So I always think about how us, we're caged in, like we have these collars, and how like you can see the other side of the street, and then it's hurting so bad to get through the fence. But as long as you just keep remembering that, like, you can get to the other side of the street, you just have to go through
it's like in your mind. Yeah.
Yeah. You just have to go through that pain of like how bad this is going to shock you or whatever it's going to do to you. But you just have to remember that, like, but I'm going to get to the other side of the street. Cause I just know that for me, that's just what I have to keep recalling is like, the shit's going to get real for however long it's going to happen.
Well, I agree with you completely. The only time I have difficulty is when I can't see the goal. If I have a clear goal, I can always go towards it. But if I can't see the goal, like there's been times in my life where I've been confused of what I wanted. Yeah. And when I can't see the goal, it's the worst. If I have a clear goal in mind, like if I'm like, this is what I'm going towards, I can go towards it.
Gotcha.
But it's the times, the unsurety that I'm like, okay, what is going on here? Yeah. And sometimes it's like you just have to make a decision and commit to it because your ego and your mind will always create excuses.
For sure. For sure.
And I think sometimes I am sure, but I'm getting blocked by insecurities or whatever.
Right. Or whatever's boiling up. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Man, we're humans. Us humans we're fascinating creatures, aren't we?
we are. We're very interesting.
Yeah. Every day I'm literally like, I did not know that you existed. Like I'll meet somebody, I'll be like, I did not know. I had no idea.
We're just really complicated, adorable monkeys.
We are. Lord. I mean, I love humans so much. I do find us, what we can tell, what our brains will tell us, I feel like is so interesting, you know?
Yes.
We will suppress what seems so natural just so that our brains and our ego can be right or correct or feel okay.
Or feel valid. I was just telling someone about that. I was talking about how I deal with my mom because I love my mom more than anything, but she is one of those people, she has to be right. She just has to be right. She's always, she won't hear you if she's not right. Like if she doesn't feel like her point has been made, you could repeat the word, hot 20 times and she wouldn't hear it. She wouldn't hear the word. And so over the process of, I'm 29 minus. So in the past 14 years, I've been trying to communicate with her and learn with her. And for the longest time, she would make it a cultural thing. She's like, well, in Vietnamese culture, we just believe this and you guys just believe different. And I started to understand that it was just an excuse because she didn't want to deal with certain issues, right?
Yeah.
So she would make it a cultural thing. Like, oh, you just don't get me. And so now I realize that the way to deal with her is I always acknowledge her because she just wants to be right about it. And I don't care about being right. Like, who cares?
Yeah.
So I always say, yes, mom, I totally agree with you. And it's not that I'm lying to her. It's just that she won't be able to physically listen unless I acknowledge her. So I'll acknowledge her and then you'll see her like totally relax. And then I can say anything I want and she'll hear me. But she physically will just block you out because her mind is so focused on, I have to explain this to Rosie and she has to get it and she has to understand this.
Yeah.
Because she's so just wants to be right so badly.
Yeah. Interesting.
And yeah. So I have no desire to be right. I'm like, if I'm wrong, that's fine.
Right.
I'm like, who cares?
Yeah.
I am not so, I've been wrong a lot and it's fine. And I think when I was younger, I used to be more resistant to it. Like I was like, no, I can't be wrong. And now I'm just like, who cares? What happens if I'm wrong? I'm wrong. Who cares?
I know. Moving on.
Yeah. Moving on.
Exactly.
Right. I learned something new about myself.
Yeah. Right. Exactly.
And I think that makes me sad when I see people who they just cannot, they just have to be right about everything.
I know. No, I've definitely known a couple and
it's like, what does it matter? Your ego gets validated. Like, who cares?
But then what's crazy to me is at the expense of someone else, because I also, because they will do it to the point where they are trying to crush you. But there's also, I read a lot of psychology books because I just find the human brain really fascinating. Yeah. Right. And they would actually, we're saying like statistically speaking, I think I want to say
I think you're going to say the statistic I know, but say it.
Oh, okay. They were saying that 70% of people would rather die than admit that they're wrong.
So that's not the one I heard, but it's very similar.
Okay.
There's one that I heard that I can't remember the statistic, so I'm not going to quote it because I don't want to be wrong because I don't want to give misinformation.
Sure.
But there was a statistic that I read that even if someone has a belief that's so strong, the more you show them physical evidence that they're wrong, the more they cling on to that belief.
Wow.
Even more.
Yeah.
So just as an example, so at the time that people discovered the world was round,
yeah,
the more physical evidence that you would show them, the more they would say, no, it's flat, because the fear of being wrong is so strong.
Wow.
That people would rather
ignore
facts, actual facts,
right,
than say, hey, I'm wrong.
Right.
And the minute that I learned, which it was a process, that I could be wrong, was one of the most powerful moments of my life because I can't be controlled anymore.
Yeah.
When you're able to say, all right, maybe I'm wrong. What can the person do? Keep proving it?
I know, right?
It's like
you are taking something
you almost take it away from
them.
It's like a friend of ours said, people who just do the opposite just to piss you off, they're so easy to control.
Yeah.
Right? If someone says you can't do this and they're like, oh, I'm going to prove you wrong, you just controlled them.
I know. Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Right.
So it's like by the fact of someone saying, you can't do this, Rosie, and I'm like, all right, maybe I can't, maybe I can, by leaving it open, all right, maybe I'm wrong, maybe I'm right. It's like I've taken that power away from them and owned it.
For sure.
Because you really don't know until it happens.
No, and it's true. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's sadly, I definitely have had moments, don't get me wrong, of not necessarily of needing, a little bit of needing to be right, but it's
I've had moments.
Yeah.
I've had moments.
It's definitely that. I've definitely had, but then also it's more this feeling of, I'm really big on having people. I used to be really big on, and it still pops up, don't get me wrong, of really having people see my point, be like, well, at least can you see my point?
No, that's what my mom is. She just has to get it in.
Yes. Yeah. And then, I'm still working on really, because at the end of the day, what?
Who cares if they see your
No,
point? Yeah, as long as you understand it, and
for sure,
you're the only person that really matters.
Exactly. And I always be like, what's the point of having them? Because at the end of the day, just so they could be like, oh, I see your, and I'd be like, yes, they see my point.
It's a validation. Your mind's like, yes, I'm not an idiot. Yeah, I'm smart. See?
So fucking ridiculous. It's ridiculous.
Have you had, so I haven't mentioned it all, but you were Miss Alaska, you said twice.
I was. I went to Miss America and Miss USA.
Which are different.
Yes.
People, they're
totally
different.
Yes. Very different.
Do you ever have people categorizing you or judging you as a beauty queen or certain things, or putting you in a box because of that label?
They do. For the longest time, I actually used to like keep it off my resume when I would go to things, which is kind of opposite, the complete antithesis of why you actually end up starting to do those things, because you do those things so that you can
put it on your resume.
Yes, exactly. And have it open doors. And then at one point you realize how people go, oh, well, you're blah, 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 blah. You're like this. Then they think they have this idea of who you are based off of one thing that happens to be on your resume. So I started to leave it out, but then I started really, again, embracing it and knowing that there are so many wonderful, beneficial things that came out of that. And I mean, that one, I have a couple of my best friends came out of doing all of those things. And then two, just the amount of like press that you have to learn how to like deal with. And do you know what I mean? There's so many amazing things that came out of it that I'm like, why am I in denial of something that I
that's part
absolutely
of you.
Loved? Yes.
Yeah.
And that I really am so proud of.
Well, I think that there's this thing in society which really bothers me, judgmental people out there who hopefully are not listening, because no judgmental people should be listening to my podcast.
Only amazing, cool people.
Only amazing, cool people. What I don't like is there seems to be this thing in society where people do not feel like you can have it all. There's this belief that you can't be pretty and you can't be smart and you can't, there's got to be something.
It's true.
Right? Because I consider myself, attractive, and I've had a lot of people say, well, you can't be cute and funny. I'm like, why? And they've like wanted me to fail because they can't, in their belief system, it's like, that's too much.
Yeah.
You can only be pretty and be an idiot. Or you can only be smart and you can't have it all.
Right.
And so I've had that as well. Or I've had people be like, well, you can't be funny and smart. Like, that's not, I'm like, why? Why can't you, And I think that, like, you have to be crazy. There has to be something wrong with you. It's like, no, why can't people have that? And I think it's from their own insecurity.
Right.
So it seems like you're a go-getter and also you're beautiful. And I think that brings up something inside of them. Like, well, why? So I think that's why a lot of people put the beauty pageant or whatever in a box.
Totally.
Because that is considered, attractiveness. And why in the hell would an attractive woman ever have a brain?
Right. It's true.
I've experienced that with men too. If a guy is good looking, a lot of times people will say, well, he's probably an idiot or he's just like a Calvin Klein model. Why can't we have it all? We can. And
right.
And a lot of people do.
Right. And especially I think that what's interesting about people who okay, like let's say, they're attractive female who is smart. I think what's amazing to me about that type of situation is I personally would love it if on the long laundry list of characteristics that encompass who I am, that honestly like looks as like the 10th thing on there, because to me, like, whatever, this is my shell. But I also think that because there is that belief system, you actually theoretically have to work harder at being smart.
That not theoretically, you have to.
Yes,
you actually have to.
You really do.
I've had
really
had so many people. Oh well, you're like an Asian female, so you're supposed to be shy. And then I perform on stage and like, wow, I feel like I have to prove myself even more.
You always have to break out of whatever the opposite is of how they feel like you are being, or you know what I'm saying, like, or even vice versa in regards to. I'm about to laugh. I love seeing. Okay, do you ever watch those makeovers when they would do them on Oprah?
Yeah, makeover shows.
I cry so much when I watch those. I love them so much. But when you take these amazing women and then you glam them all up in this Hollywood style, it always proved to me that I'm like, we are all absolutely gorgeous given the right makeup artist, the right hairstylist. Of
course, the women. Okay,
Spanx.
Did you ever watch America's Next Top Model?
A
lot of the girls before were just average looking girls.
Right.
They're just normal girls. People get, smoke and mirrors Hollywood.
Yeah.
But
glamified,
it's like
all up.
Glamified. And they're like, oh my God, Penelope Cruz is so beautiful. And so is so. I'm like, no, they just look normal. They have makeup and there's really, really good lighting. And they have a trainer.
Right.
And so I think, I absolutely think that all women are beautiful.
Yeah. When I watch those makeovers, that's what it always reminds me. I'm like, oh my God, you can really take, and I'm like, oh, I just hope people understand that, like, you can absolutely embrace, like there's like I said, there's so much beauty and there's so many women and so many different categories are so gorgeous. And I'm just like, oh, I wish everybody could just tap into their inner movie star and understand that, like, honestly, I wish I could take this team to like everyone in America and like make them like see it, because like, and sadly, this is what sucks, is that you actually have to do the physical transformation for them to believe it and see it at the end, when at the end of the day, like,
they were the same person.
Exactly.
They just had makeup on.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's true. It's true.
All right. Well, we got to wrap up. Do you have anything else you'd like to promote other than your wonderful film?
We'll have another one that I'm working on.
Great.
Yeah, we're going to be filming it next summer, that I'm actually going to be directing. And it's called The Yearbook. And so I'm actually trying to get money for that currently. And
so check it out. Look for it at Kickstarter.
Yes, exactly.
The Yearbook.
So our Kickstarter, we are going to do another one for some of it again. And so I'll let you know when that's actually going to be up and running. But again, it's a very female comedy driven movie.
I like this. So, I like this.
Yeah. I'm excited. It's going to be great. It's going to be a really good adventure.
Okay, awesome. And you guys, please check out outoftheboxpodcast.com and donate money. Also to me, I have no limit, but that's fine. $5, $10, whatever. Donate to the podcast to keep us going. And please go on iTunes and Stitcher Radio and rate and leave comments. It helps us out a lot. Good night, guys.